Good morning from beautiful New Jersey. This is Rabbi Daniel Geretz, and I am here today to give a brief Devar Torah on Parashat Tazria. This week also is Parashat HaChodesh, the last of the four special Torah readings leading up to Pesach. This Shabbat will be Parashat Tazria and Parashat HaChodesh, and also Rosh Chodesh. So this Shabbat will be one of the very few instances during the Jewish calendar where we take out and read from three different Sifrei Torah. Since Pesach is coming, as indicated by Parashat HaChodesh, I thought it might be nice to link this week's parasha to Pesach. And when we get to the end, we'll see whether I did a good job of doing that or not. The majority of this week's parasha, and also next week's parasha, is devoted to the discussion of Nega Tzarat, which we conventionally translate as leprosy. And our commentators have wondered exactly what sort of a medical diagnosis Tzarat is. Tzarat really isn't a medical diagnosis as much as it is a spiritual diagnosis, and it's a physical manifestation of a spiritual problem. So those people who contend that Tzarat is leprosy or psoriasis, maybe not, to the extent that there is something spiritually going on that is causing the Tzarat. We can speculate as to whether there's any physical manifestation in our world of that sort of a spiritual problem. Anyhow, whatever Tzarat is diagnosed by Kohen, and the Kohen comes and must observe the symptoms and make a diagnosis which results in Tzarat. There are three different types of Tzarat that are discussed in this week's parasha and next week's parasha. There is Tzarat HaGuf, Tzarat which affects a human being on their skin. There's Tzarat HaBeged, Tzarat which affects one's clothing, garments. And there's also Tzarat HaBayit, Tzarat which affects one's house. Our commentators spend some time discussing the three different types of Tzarat, and we're going to get to that in a minute. Our commentators also observe that Tzarat, the spiritual problem that causes Tzarat, is Lashon Hara, and they derive that from next week's parsha. The title of next week's parsha is Mitzorah, which literally means somebody who has Tzarat, and they say that the word Mitzorah is an acronym for Motzi Shem Ra, somebody who spreads gossip or a bad name about somebody else. And from this, they deduce that Tzarat is a consequence of engaging in the sin of Lashon Hara, gossiping, slander, speaking about others. It's interesting, I guess, to wonder why specifically Tzarat and why three different types of Tzarat and what the link is to Lashon Hara, besides the mnemonic link, which is nice, but it does nothing really to explain why Tzarat is the consequence of Lashon Hara, just to assert that it is. And I think to understand the link between Lashon Hara and Tzarat, we need to look in the Passover Haggadah, and we also need to look in the Midrash Rabbah. Let's take a look at the Midrash Rabbah first, because I think that makes the link quite clear. We're looking at Ruth Rabbah, Perek Bet, the second chapter, Ruth, Midrash Rabbah Ruth, and the 10th section. It's quite long. It's talking about Machlon and Chilion, the sons of Naomi, and they leave because of the famine, and they move out of Eretz Yisrael, and they eventually die. And Machlon and Chilion died, both of them. And it talks about Rav Hunya and Rav Joshua bar Abin and Rav Zabda, the son-in-law of Rabbi Levi, said, "The merciful one never extracts retribution of man's life to begin with." And then it brings a number of proof texts. One is from Eov, from Job, and a number of other proof texts. There are two proof texts near the end that are of interest to us, so I'm going to read. In the case of Egypt, too, it was so. First of all, he smote their vines also, and their fig trees. After this, he gave over their cattle, also to the hail. And only then do we read, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt. Right? This is actually not from the Torah, this is from Tehillim. Perek, a number of different prakim. I don't do Roman numerals really fast, so if you're curious, you can go look in Medrash Rabbah Root and see where those psukim are in Tehillim. Going on, and even in the case of the plague spots, it is so. First, they come upon a man's house. If he repents of his evil, it is well. But if not, the host must have the stones removed, as it is said. Then the priest shall command that they take out the stones. That's in next week's parasha. If he repents, it is well. If not, the house must needs be demolished. If he repents, it is well. If not, the plague comes upon his garments, and they must be cleansed. If he repents, it is well. If not, they must be rent, as it is said. Then he shall rend it out of the garment. If he repents, it is well. If not, they must be burnt, as it is said, and he shall burn the garment. Then only do they come upon his body. If he repents, it is well. If not, he has to leave the camp for 7 days and return. If he repents, it is well. If not, he shall dwell alone. Without the camp or outside the camp shall his dwelling be. And so it was with Machlon and Chilion also, and it goes on. So it's clear from Medrash Rabbah that when these ills occur, that God does not exact retribution or punishment or cause harm to one's body until one has warnings on one's house and one's garments first. In the case of Torat, and also in the case of the plagues of Egypt, there was a tiered approach to how the plagues were meted out. I think this is also clear from the Passover Haggadah, and there's another interesting connection also. After we recite the 10 plagues, we then cite Rabbi Yossi Haglili Omer, Minayin ata Omer shalakhu hamitri. I'm sorry, that's wrong. That's not. Rabbi Yehuda hayan noten bahem simanim. Detzach adash be'achav. Rabbi Judah referred to them by a mnemonic, Detzach adash be'achav. And if you look at how these plagues are grouped, they can actually be analyzed two different ways. The sets of plagues are grouped. The first set, blood, frogs, and lice, affected the land, just like the